Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. 9 years ago, I, 38 male now, 29 at the time, thought I had everything. I owned a small but growing tech company, had a steady income, and was engaged to my then fiance, Emily, now 36 female. We'd been together for 5 years, and I truly believed we were happy. Emily and I were planning our wedding, and I was looking forward to spending the rest of my life with her. I also employed my younger brother, Ryan, now 35 male. Ryan wasn't the most qualified for his role, but I hired him because he was family, and I wanted to help him get on his feet. Ryan had always struggled with direction, so I figured a stable job and a supportive environment would give him the opportunity to build something meaningful for himself. Life seemed perfect. Emily and I were excited about our future. My business was thriving, and I felt good knowing I was helping Ryan along the way. But life has a way of pulling the rug out from under you when you least expect it. One evening, I realized I'd forgotten some important paperwork at the office. Emily was supposed to be out with friends, so I decided to quickly swing by the office, grab the documents, and head home. It was late, and the building was empty, or so I thought. When I unlocked the door to my office, I was hit with a sight that made my stomach drop. Emily and Ryan were making out on my desk. My fiance and my brother, on my desk. They didn't notice me at first. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what I was seeing. When they finally looked up and saw me, Emily gasped and jumped away from Ryan like she'd been burned. Ryan just stood there, looking like a deer caught in headlights. I'll never forget the look on their faces. Emily's panic, Ryan's guilt, and the crushing realization that my life as I knew it was over. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. Emily immediately started crying. "It's not what it looks like," she said, even though it was exactly what it looked like. Then, as if trying to justify herself, she added, "Ryan and we didn't mean for this to happen. It just did." Ryan, on the other hand, didn't even bother denying it. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he said, as if there was ever a good way for me to find out my brother and fiance were having an affair. Neither of them apologized. Neither of them took responsibility. Instead, they tried to make it about their connection and how they hadn't been able to fight their feelings. The sheer audacity was staggering. I ended things with Emily on the spot. I told her to pack her things and leave our apartment immediately. As for Ryan, I fired him from my company the very next day. I told him he had until the end of the week to clear out his things. I thought that was the end of it, but my family had other ideas. When my parents found out what happened, they didn't side with me. Instead, they defended Ryan. "He's your brother," my mom said. "You can't just fire him. You are so lucky he's not suing you. Him being in love with the same woman you are is not a grounds to fire him. You should take him back because it's not fair on him." My dad took it a step further, accusing me of being vindictive. "People make mistakes," he said. "You need to forgive him and move on." I said they are delusional if they think I won't fire my brother after what he did and keep working with him, seeing him every day. Then they dropped a bombshell. Apparently, they would like to buy my company for peanuts so my brother could keep his job. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My parents expected me to give up the business I'd worked so hard to build just to protect Ryan after he'd betrayed me. When I refused, they disowned me. They cut me off completely, siding with Ryan and Emily and labeling me the villain. The years that followed were the hardest of my life. I'd lost not just my fiancé and my brother, but also my parents and most of my extended family. I threw myself into my work as a way to cope, and eventually, I managed to rebuild my life. A few years later, I met Sarah, now 34 female, the woman who would become my wife. Sarah was amazing, and soon I was deeply in love with her. We've been married for 6 years now and have 2 amazing kids. For the most part, I'd moved on, until last month, when everything came rushing back. A month ago, I got an unexpected call from my uncle. We hadn't spoken in years, so I was surprised when his number popped up. When I answered, his voice was quiet, almost hesitant, and he told me the news. My parents had been in a car accident and didn't survive. The news hit me in a strange way. Of course, I felt grief. No matter what had happened between us, They were still my parents. But it was complicated. We hadn't spoken in years, and there was so much unresolved between us. I'd always hoped we might find a way to patch things up someday, but now that chance was gone. It felt heavy, like there was this mix of sadness, guilt, regret, and frustration swirling around in my chest. After the call, I sat down for a while just processing. Even with all the history between us, I knew I needed to go to the funeral. It felt like the right thing to do. I wasn't sure how I'd be received, especially by Ryan, but I wanted to pay my respects. When I arrived, it felt as awkward as I'd feared. I recognized a lot of faces, family members I hadn't seen in nearly a decade, but no one came up to greet me. It was like there was this invisible wall between me and everyone else. I kept my head down and found a quiet spot near the back. Then I saw Ryan. The second he spotted me, his face twisted with anger, and he stormed over. "What the hell are you doing here?" he hissed, loud enough for people nearby to hear. "You don't belong here. You abandoned us." I tried to stay calm. "I came to pay my respects," I said. I wasn't looking for a fight, but Ryan was clearly spoiling for one. He kept going, accusing me of turning my back on the family and blaming me for everything that had gone wrong in his life. I didn't want to make a scene, so I told him, "I'll leave if that's what you want." And I did. I walked out quietly, feeling a mix of frustration and resignation. I'd come to honor my parents, but it seemed like that wasn't going to be possible. A couple of days later, I attended the will reading. Honestly, I wasn't expecting anything. Given how things had ended with my parents, I figured they would have left everything to Ryan. But to my surprise, the lawyer explained that my parents had split their estate evenly between the two of us. Ryan stood up and started yelling, "You don't deserve this. You ruined my life, and now you want to take half of what they left?" I stayed calm and told him this was their decision, not mine. If they wanted you to have everything, they would have written the will that way. That only made him angrier. He started pacing, ranting about how I'd destroyed everything for him by firing him all those years ago. At one point, he even lunged at me, but a couple of relatives and the lawyer stepped in before things got out of hand. It was surreal and exhausting, and I was relieved when it was over. After the reading, I couldn't help but think about how Ryan's life had turned out. I'd heard bits and pieces over the years, how he'd married Emily, how she'd cheated on him repeatedly, and how they'd eventually divorced. Apparently, he'd started drinking heavily, and now he was in debt and struggling to hold down a job. I get that he's in a bad place, but I can't take responsibility for the choices he's made. He spent years blaming me for his problems, but the truth is, he's the one who made those decisions. I didn't force him to have an affair with my fiance. I didn't make him marry someone who clearly wasn't loyal, and I certainly didn't make him turn to alcohol to cope. I understand why he's bitter, but I can't fix his life for him. The inheritance wasn't my decision. It was our parents. And I'm not going to give up my share just to make him feel better. Since the will reading, Ryan has been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between begging me for my share of the inheritance and threatening to make my life hell if I don't give it to him. A few relatives have also chimed in, saying I should do the right thing because Ryan is struggling. But where were these people when Ryan and Emily betrayed me? Where were they when my parents disowned me? I've decided to block Ryan and focus on my own family. Sarah and the kids are my priority now, and I don't have the energy to keep dealing with the toxicity. As far as I'm concerned, I'm honoring my parents' wishes by keeping my share of the inheritance. It's not about greed. It's about moving on and protecting the life I've built for myself. Reddit, I need your judgment. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give Ryan my share of the inheritance? OP's brother made his bed, and now he has to lie in it. He destroyed OP's trust, their relationship, and OP's connection with family. And now he's acting like OP is the villain? The fact that he couldn't even control himself at the funeral and the will reading shows how toxic he is. No doubt OP needs to keep his share of the inheritance. It's what OP's parents wanted. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Wow, the audacity of Ryan is mind-blowing. He had an affair with your fiance, destroyed your family relationships, and now he's blaming you for his failed life? That's some next-level entitlement. You're absolutely not the a-hole. Your parents' decision to split the inheritance speaks volumes. Maybe they realized he wasn't as deserving as he thinks he is. Stand your ground. Ryan's outburst at the funeral and the will reading says everything about him. Instead of taking responsibility for his actions, he's trying to rewrite history and pin all his failures on you. You're not obligated to bail him out or give him anything. Block him and focus on your own family. They're what really matters, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Ryan's life is a mess because of his own decisions, not yours. It's rich that he's blaming you when all you did was respond to his betrayal. And let's not forget the part where he tried to kick you out of the funeral. The inheritance was your parents' choice, not yours, and you're honoring their wishes. Don't let him or anyone else guilt you into giving up what's rightfully yours. So basically I, 27 female, have been with boyfriend, 30 male, for about 8 years. We've talked about marriage multiple times throughout our relationship, but both agree that it's not what either of us want, for right now at least. To be completely honest, the only reason I would get married later on is for medical and administrative reasons, but also because I get to wear a pretty dress. He feels the same way, which is something that we settled at the beginning of our relationship. Now is where my mother comes in. She's always had this idea of what my life should be like. She always thought I would be married and popping out babies by now, but that really isn't what I want for myself. I've become a master at just ignoring all her constant remarks about my relationship status and how badly she wants to be a grandma. I told her that I understand, but it's not what me and my boyfriend want for the moment. I've had this conversation with her many times, but she just won't let it go. I had noticed recently that my boyfriend was acting secretive, but honestly, I just thought he was planning something for my birthday. Fast forward to this weekend. We were hosting a family dinner for my birthday, and my whole family flew out to be there. During the night, I noticed my mom and boyfriend were constantly sneaking around and whispering, but I didn't think much of it. Everything was going great until it was time to open presents. And suddenly it gets to my boyfriend's turn. He gets down on one knee and proposes in front of everyone. I was shocked and immediately asked him what he was doing. Things got awkward fast. I took him aside and asked what was going on, that we had talked about this not being the right time, and neither of us wanting to be married for now. Turns out, my mother has been telling him for months how apparently I'm dying to get married, but I don't want to tell him because I know he's not ready, and I don't want to push him away, but that if he loved me, he would take this step because it's what I want. I was livid and immediately went back out to where everyone was and started yelling at my mom, telling her that this is a new low, even for her, and I can't believe she would be so selfish and basically trick my boyfriend into proposing to me. She replied by saying she only did this because she thought it was what I wanted, and I told her, "No, Mom, this is what you wanted," and stormed out. I haven't contacted her since, but I have received messages from multiple family members saying I shouldn't have yelled at her in front of everyone, especially since she thought she was doing the right thing. For anyone wondering, me and boyfriend talked about it, and I told him I just wished he would have talked to me about it, and that he should have known that this isn't something that I would want at all, but we are fine and have decided to move past this. So, am I the a-hole for yelling at my mom in front of my family? Not the a-hole. She majorly overstepped by manipulating your boyfriend into an embarrassing situation for you and for him in front of everyone. She deserves to be told off right then and there that your relationship isn't a playground designed for her and now has a no trespassing sign. Not the a-hole. She knew this isn't what you wanted and didn't care because she thinks mommy knows best, which is what I hope you've told people. I would cut back on contact with your mom and tell her she's damaged your trust, relationship, so you need a break from her. If your mother didn't want to be yelled at publicly, then she shouldn't have manipulated an unwanted proposal, publicly. And she didn't think this is what you wanted. It was what she wanted, she alone, not the a-hole. My 15 female, dad, 49 male, is a panel beater and owns a family business that was passed down to him from his dad when he died. My mom, 46 female, and dad broke up when I was 6 and my little brother was 4, after I was the one to tell my mom he was cheating. He would take us to see our new stepmother, 46 female, and step-siblings, 12 female, 11 female, 8 female, while our mom stayed at home looking after my older half-brother, 26 male. Our animals, we lived, still do with dad, on a farm, while cleaning up. She asked us one morning where we went. The story's long, so I'll tell the short story. I told her we were with dad's girlfriend Jay and her kids. Mom went into work, she was his bookkeeper, and confronted him. They split up, but Mom didn't move out until a year later because Dad wanted to keep the farm. He gave her a payout and she bought a house in the suburbs. We stay with her during the week, Dad 3 or 4 weekends a month. Stepmother and kids are aggressive, so I try to stay with Mom more. I was at Dad's this weekend and we all were having a dinner at the table, 8 of us squished in. and my dad started a conversation with Jay about how a friend of my dad's wife moved out and broke up with him out of the blue. But what actually happened was this man was cheating on her with a 26-year-old girl. He's 50. This 26-year-old came to get her car repaired at Dad's work that was transferred from a 50-year-old man's work. When first transferred, it had her address, but when doing the paperwork today, it had his. So she's moved into his. They were making stupid comments about it, and stepmother said something along the lines of, "It's not surprising because men don't live alone. They need someone there. Women, though, are more independent." She chuckled, and I shook my head and said, "My mom, for an example." My dad glared at me, and stepmother asked, "What?" I told her, "You two have some nerve to judge others for cheating when you both were ducking each other behind my mom's back." My brother didn't know this. All he knew was that Dad didn't spend enough time with us, so that's why they broke up. So he was shocked, and so were the others. I laughed and yelled this time, "You're a bunch of malicious hypocrites. I hope you're happy, Jay, because you destroyed a happy family. And you, Dad, I hope you're happy for destroying your relationship with us. I'm sick of lying to everyone. Go duck yourselves and Merry Christmas." Don't know why I said Merry Christmas, but I did. I walked to my room and called Mom. Mom came and picked me up and little brother. I don't know if little brother is mad at me or shocked. Dad's been leaving me, Mom, and bro messages and voicemails. Am I the a-hole? Did you listen to the messages? If so, what did they say? What did the stepkids say about your comments? My dad said, "OP, I was in a bad place when I got with Jay. What I did was a mistake." I replied to this one saying, "You didn't make a mistake. You made a decision knowing the consequences. There's a difference. You thought you wouldn't get caught, but you did. The past is the past. It happened 8 years ago and you need to get over it. The truth is, it was never enough and I needed more. Jay was what I needed." Last one I replied to. "Happy to know that your kids and a woman you claim to love wasn't enough. Mom did more than you ever did. I'm surprised you even know it was 8 years ago, considering you can't even remember my birthday. Even Nan knows you made a stupid decision. She doesn't like Jay. She calls Mom once a week. When does she call Jay? Never. Go duck yourself." I blocked him, but now he's blowing up my mom and little brother's phone with messages similar but directed towards me. Stepkids went to their rooms and on their iPads. I said goodbye to my little sister and my youngest stepsister. She didn't want me to go and cried, but I wrote down my phone number and email on a piece of paper for her. She just kept apologizing to me. I told her it wasn't her fault and that I would see her soon. Not the a-hole. Maybe they should look in the mirror before they judge others. You said the truth and nothing but the truth. They have no right to be mad. Not the a-hole. Absolutely hilarious, and I don't think you misspoke or lied. I do think you should have told your brother about the cheating before this, but that doesn't make you an a-hole. I can't imagine how annoyed and frustrated you were at that table, listening to them be hypocrites. Not the a-hole. I laughed way too hard at the Merry Christmas. Your dad and Jay have no right acting like they're in the right. Cheating affects any child involved. Your brother may be in shock, and maybe he could have learned the truth in a bit more quiet manner, but I think it's good that you stopped him from hearing and believing that awful conversation. So, pretty quick story. Me, 26 male. My girlfriend Madison, 27 female. Her sister with husband, and her younger brother all met up for dinner. Me and Madison have been together 3 years, so I know these people very well. Their family is very traditional and outgoing. They really enjoy roasting each other and have a very open family in terms of what they talk about. So her sister was bringing up her love of meal prepping and cooking for her husband, and how much she loved working from home because she could cook so much more for them. She also said that her working from home has given her the chance to do more chores around the house, so her husband didn't have to worry as much when he came home. Madison's mom then asked if Madison ever cooked for us. We live together, and I do basically everything. I cook, I do all the cleaning, most of the laundry and shopping. Madison takes the trash out. I sort of laughed and said, "No, not really." Madison said to her mom, "He's kidding. I cook every now and then." I looked at her and said, "No, you don't. You've literally never cooked us a single meal." Some of her family started cracking up, so I thought it was fine. It's the truth. I've been with Madison for 3 years, and she's never cooked a single thing for us. I don't care. I'm not with her for her cooking. But I didn't feel like lying to her parents either. Madison's mom gave a disappointed look to Madison and asked me how I did it because she knows I work long hours. I said that we DoorDash a lot because whenever I come home late, I don't always feel like cooking. That I always make us breakfast before we go to work and pack lunches, and that we probably DoorDash 3 to 4 times a week, all of which is true. Madison and her mom gave each other looks, and we went back to eating. On the way home, Madison was being standoffish, so I asked what was wrong. And she went on this wild rant how I didn't need to expose her in front of her family. I said I didn't realize I said anything that was a secret. She kept going on and on about how just because her sister likes being a housewife doesn't mean she needs to be one. I said if the truth being told to her parents was such a problem for her, then she knows where the pans are and she can start cooking if she has a problem with people knowing she doesn't. My parents think I didn't say anything wrong, but my sister thinks I might be an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You told the truth. If she's embarrassed by not cooking, it seems like there's a deeper problem she needs to address. She's right. It's okay not to be a housewife, and it sounds like you aren't asking for that. So why is she upset by people knowing that? Sounds like a case of her not agreeing with her parents' housewife standards. But instead of defiantly declaring her lifestyle, she chose to hide it. I can't judge someone for how they handle toxic family members with outdated views. But people aren't mind readers. If she needed her boyfriend to help cover up her disappointing lack of housewife activities, she had to make it clear in advance. Not that he would be obligated to lie and pretend to be some helpless slob who needs his girlfriend to wait on him hand and foot. But that issue is moot when she didn't even inform him that was her plan. Definitely not the a-hole. Just because her sister likes being a housewife doesn't mean she needs to be one. This is absolutely true, no question at all, and I don't think you're denying that. But she can't play it both ways. She can't expect you to do all of the work while she gets credit for something she never does. And she can't be mad at you for telling the truth, especially if she never specifically asked you to keep the detail quiet. Not the a-hole. I, female 29, have 4 kids. Female 6, male 4, female 1, and female 3 months. I was living at home with my mother and my brother, but recently had to leave. Without giving too much info, the cops were called to my mother's house and they ended up calling CPS since they believed that my children were in an unsafe environment, even though me and my kids were not involved in the issue. CPS took my kids, and I was told they will be placed in foster homes and probably split up until the issue is resolved. I do not want strangers to take my children, but my children's fathers won't do so, and the only family I have is my mom and brother, who obviously can't take them. I decided to call a friend of mine. We haven't spoken in a while because I've been busy, but we were close. I begged her to take my children in, and she said she was not able to. First, she told me she didn't have room, but I know she and her boyfriend recently bought a house, a big house, and they do have spare rooms. When I pointed it out, she said those rooms are their home offices and a home library, which isn't really the point here, because she does have the space. She also works from home, so she would be able to stay with my kids, and I even offered to pay her too. Then she changed her story and told me she can't take my kids because of her chronic pain that she has, and chasing down children all day would make her pain worse. I did get a bit angry at this because it sounds like she doesn't even care about my kids. I begged her, and she said that she would talk to her boyfriend and they might be able to work something out since my kids are older. At this point, I forgot that she didn't know about my 2 youngest kids. When I mentioned them, she freaked out and said she absolutely wouldn't take my kids in, and there was no way she could watch so many of them. I tried to convince her, but she stopped replying to my text messages or DMs on social media. She also blocked my number, and I tried to text and call her boyfriend and he blocked me too. I made a post on Facebook to vent and tagged her even though she hasn't used her account in years. Apparently her sisters all saw the post and began commenting very nasty things. I think my friend told them what happened because one of her sisters also made a snarky comment about the report and called me a bad mom. I don't know what to do, and I think that my friend is being very selfish right now, but maybe I should have just kept talking to her or met her face to face instead of blasting my business on Facebook. Holy crap, you're the a-hole. You're not an a-hole for finding yourself in a desperate situation if it's out of your control. You're also not the a-hole for scrambling to not have your kids split up. But no one, and I mean no one, is obligated to do you a favor, especially one that entails suddenly becoming a guardian of 4 children, who, by the sounds of it, she doesn't know. You hounding her makes you the a-hole. You blasting her on social media makes you the a-hole. You bringing her boyfriend into the mix makes you the a-hole. No means no, in every situation. You're the a-hole, 1000%. First of all, you said you don't want strangers watching your kids, but this friend is obviously not close enough to know about all of your kids, so that's weird. But more to the point, it is no one's responsibility to take your children for you. I don't know what happened, but if it was bad enough that CPS took your kids, then you are completely at fault for this. Your kids are your responsibility. You are actually the selfish one to just expect a friend to want to care for 4 children for an indeterminate amount of time. You're the a-hole cubed. You're the a-hole. How can you think for even a second that someone who you've not spoken to in at least a year, who you've not seen or texted, to even mention your 2 births and pregnancies, is a friend you know well enough to demand she take on responsibility for your 4 children? I get you're in a desperate situation, and bless your poor children, but your friend is not the a-hole for setting a very fair and reasonable boundary. Lord. Edit. People keep saying I'm a bad parent for having my kids in an unsafe environment, but I wasn't aware of the issues until someone called the cops on my brother, who was responsible. I didn't know what he was doing. I've not lost custody of my kids. I am getting them back as soon as I do what I was told. I just need someone to take them in the meantime. Edit. I understand I'm the a-hole and was acting grossly entitled and immature. Thank you everyone for giving me a wake-up call. Even if it was rude, I appreciate it, and it made me stop and think about my actions. I'm going to apologize to my friend if she will talk to me, and I do take responsibility for everything. I should not have posted on Facebook, and I should not have kept bothering her once she said no. I was desperate, but it was not an excuse. I'm going to focus on myself and getting my children back in my care.